When the pandemic came in 2020, China hoarded the world's medical supplies and left others to fend for themselves. When inflation hit the US and Europe last year, China hoarded world's 50% food grains, which rendered food a luxury item for millions in poor countries. So what if China decides to hoard EV batteries in the times to come, when the world needs them the most? As most people say, EV batteries are the fuel of the future, and China is dangerously close to seizing the global EV battery supply chains. China wishes to acquire the power to cause a global blackout at its will. But guess what? South Korean battery-making giants are now ruthlessly dashing China's hopes of materializing its EV domination ambitions. Allow me to explain how. And welcome. You're watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Atul Mishra, and in this video I will tell you how LG Energy Solutions plans to flatten China's EV battery empire. Let's begin. Electric vehicle batteries are the fuel of the future, and that's why countries around the world are restlessly working towards dominating the EV battery sector before any other country does. For instance, China has already secured a 40% share of the global EV battery market. Chinese companies like CATL and BYD are spearheading China's campaign of usurping global EV battery supply chains. You see, CATL single-handedly holds a whopping 32.5% market share, while BYD stands at 7%. We must admit, the numbers are quite impressive. But that's not the whole story. South Korea has unveiled its plans to derail China's flawless battery-making streak. Now consider these numbers. LG Energy Solution, South Korea's biggest EV battery-making giant, hit global headlines this Thursday after the company attracted bids worth 13 trillion won in South Korea's biggest ever initial public offering so far. This jaw-dropping IPO performance took the company's total market valuation to 118 trillion Korean won or $98 billion. After Samsung, the company is the most valuable company listed on the main South Korean stock exchange called KOSPI. The South Korean giant attracted heavy demand from individual and institutional investors, indicating the continued appetite for South Korean companies related to the EV battery sector. LG is eyeing rapid expansion in the times to come and is hoping to replace China's CATL to become the world's top battery manufacturer. Currently, the company holds a 20% share of the global EV battery market. Earlier this week, it announced plans to build a $2.6 billion battery manufacturing factory in the US with General Motors. LGES CEO Kwon Young-soo last week said his company aimed to overtake China's contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited, or the CATL, to become the world's largest global supplier of electric hybrid vehicle batteries by the end of the decade. So China's hopes of ruling the global EV battery sector have now been ruthlessly dashed by South Korean giant LG Energy Solution. But that's not all. Another South Korean company, SK Innovation, is also fast catching up. The South Korean battery manufacturer currently holds a 5% market share and is expanding rapidly. So what's behind the South Korean giants making impressive strides despite neck-and-neck competition from the Chinese firms? Well, it's the impressive efforts made by South Korea's Moon Jae-in administration, which is vehemently supporting its EV battery firms through government-backed programs and incentive-oriented policies. Earlier this year, South Korean President Moon Jae-in had said that South Korea will strive to become a global manufacturing powerhouse by 2030. In July, Moon had told the Korea Economic Daily that batteries are the backbones of the Korean industries that hold the future of the country. We should sharpen our competitiveness to overtake our bigger rivals and further widen the gap with our followers. The Moon administration has also announced tax relaxations and incentives for domestic battery manufacturing companies. Thanks to the government's pro-battery manufacturing policies, South Korea has so far gained investments worth a whopping $35.4 billion in the sector from giants like LG Energy Solution Limited, Samsung SDI Company, and SK Innovation Company. The administration of President Moon Jae-in has stated that it will assist enterprises in creating next-generation products such as solid-state batteries. An 80 billion won fund will assist small and medium-sized businesses in improving their ability to supply battery-making materials and components. It will, of course, be funded by the government, financial institutions, and the 3 battery manufacturers. This is enough to flatten China's EV empire. Chinese EV companies so far thrived owing to massive subsidy programs that were funded by the Chinese government. However, the cash-strapped government this year announced that it will roll back its subsidy programs to meet the requirements of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or the RCEP, that came into effect on the 1st of January. So without the government backing, Chinese EV firms are today at their weakest, and this will greatly help non-Chinese EV companies based out of South Korea, Japan, and the US. And that's why South Korean battery-making companies like LG and SK Innovations are trying to tank China's EV empire within the next 8 years.